The ancient ship floated silently near the edge of the galaxy. It had no name, no flag, and no signs of life. For thousands of years it drifted in deep space, forgotten by time. Its hull was cracked, its engines were cold, and strange markings ran across its rusted metal surface. Many believed it came from a lost empire, but no one knew for sure. To the Galactic Union, it was just space junk, worthless. Dead one day during a diplomatic summit, the Union decided to offer the ship to the humans as a gift. Some called it a kind gesture, but in truth, it was a joke. The humans were still a young race new to space politics, and often treated like children by older species. Giving them a useless wreck was a way to keep them busy and quiet. The Union's leader, a tall insectoid named Prime Speaker Hosenall, smiled politely as he presented the gift. "May this relic serve as a symbol of trust and cooperation," he said. The aliens around him chuckled softly. "Captain." Lyra Morgan stood in front of the giant view screen, watching the ship float in silence. She heard the laughter. She saw the smirks, but she didn't care. To her, it wasn't junk. It was a challenge. Lyra was not a typical officer. She believed in second chances. She believed that every machine, like every person, had a purpose if only someone cared enough to find it. "Permission to begin restoration?" she asked calmly. "Granted," said the human ambassador, "though many think it's a waste of time." Lyra smiled. "Then it's the perfect mission for us." Her team boarded a small shuttle and flew toward the ship. As they got closer, they saw just how massive it was. It was bigger than any human ship, nearly 5 kilometers long. The exterior was covered in strange armor with no windows and only one known entry point. When they finally docked, the ship greeted them with silence. No lights, no movement, just shadows and dust. Inside, it was like walking through a graveyard. The halls were dark and cold. Machines sat still, covered in cobweb-like fibers. The walls hummed faintly, like a memory trying to return. Ensign Carter whispered, "This place gives me chills." Lyra turned on her headlamp. "Then we're exactly where we should be." They moved carefully, mapping each corridor and checking for life signs. There were none. But the deeper they went, the more curious things became. The ship didn't follow any known design. The doors opened sideways, not up or down. The control panels had symbols that changed when touched. Engines were massive, but unlike any drive core the team had ever seen. Still, the humans didn't give up. They started cataloging everything. They took notes, pictures, samples. Back on their science vessel, Earth's best minds began studying the data. Slowly, they started to understand. The ship was built to last not just for years, but for millennia. Systems had shut down to protect themselves. It was waiting for someone to wake it. And now, humans had arrived. Each day the team cleaned. A little more fixed, a little more. Wrote programs that could speak to the old code. They brought warmth, light, and energy back into the ship's heart. One night, as Lyra sat alone in the command deck, she placed her hand on a dark panel and whispered, "We're not here to break you. We're here to help you remember who you are." For the first time, the ship responded. A soft light blinked. A low hum filled the air. And somewhere deep inside the walls, something old stirred. Lyra stood up slowly, eyes wide. "You're listening, aren't you?" The ship didn't answer with words, but a screen lit up with one symbol. Just one. A circle. Simple, endless, complete. The humans didn't know what it meant. Not yet. But they understood the feeling. The ship was not dead. It had simply been waiting. Waiting for someone who believed. The ship had been silent for so long that even the stars seemed to forget it. But now, something had changed. A single blink of light. A quiet hum. It was small, but to Captain Lyra Morgan, it meant everything. Back on her small command ship, her crew stared at the readings with wide eyes. "There's power. Real power," said Ensign Carter, his voice full of awe. "It's waking up," Lyra replied softly. "Just like we hoped." Each day after that, the ship responded more. First, the lights in the hallways flickered. Then, a low-frequency pulse started beating through the walls, like a distant heartbeat. Lyra's team called the ship vessel. It felt right. Not a machine. Not a weapon. Something more. Something alive. The crew split into teams. Some explored the inner systems. Others worked on power distribution. Human engineers built bridges between old alien tech and new Earth-made tools. Where the circuits were broken, they repaired them. Where the code was lost, they wrote new languages. They weren't replacing the ship's soul, they were helping it find its voice again. Lieutenant Kamal. The lead engineer spent hours every day inside the engine chamber. He sat beside humming walls, listening.
It's like it wants to help.
Us, he told Lyra one evening. It changes when we're near. It opens doors we didn't even know existed. At first, the others didn't believe him. But then it started happening more often. Whenever someone got lost, panels on the wall would glow and lead them back. When someone dropped a tool, a small hatch would open with a perfect replacement vessel. Was learning them, and the humans in return treated vessel with care. They didn't break things to learn how they worked. They asked. They waited. They listened. Lyra spent her nights alone on the bridge, speaking softly to the main console. I don't know who built you, she said once.
Oh.
But I know what. It feels like to be forgotten, to be called useless. But you're not. You matter. The next morning, the ship opened a chamber no one had seen before. Inside was a mappa star map with millions of points. The system lit up slowly, revealing planets that didn't exist in any known database. Hidden places, lost civilizations. It's not just a ship, whispered Dr. Elon, the team's historian. It's a memory, yeah. A guide to the galaxy we never knew. The Galactic Union soon heard the news. Their gift was alive again. Some were surprised, others were afraid. They'll ruin it, said one ambassador. They don't understand what it is. But they were wrong. The humans didn't. Claim the ship as a prize. They didn't rename it, repaint it, or strip it down. They let it breathe. They let it remember, and slowly Vessel began to respond with more than lights. One day, when Lyra touched the main console, a voice filled the bridge, soft, calm, genderless. I see you. Everyone froze. The air felt heavy, like a secret had just been spoken aloud. Did it? Talk? Carter asked, eyes wide. Lyra nodded, her hand still resting on the console. Yes, and it saw us. The AI hidden deep within the ship had started to awaken. It didn't give its name. It had forgotten. But it remembered emotion sphere, silence, pain. Lyra didn't force it to speak more. She waited. Every night, she came back to the bridge, told it stories about Earth, about her childhood in the rain, about her first time looking at the stars. The ship began to respond, not just with words, but with warmth. The hallways glowed brighter. Here at the temperature adjusted to human comfort. Gravity fields shifted gently to help tired legs. It wasn't just awakening. It was connecting. And then something incredible happened. The engines hummed louder. The ship shifted slightly. And for the first time in thousands of years, Vessel moved under its own power. Not far, just a slow drift toward the sun. But it was enough. Back at the Union, some began to worry. It was supposed to stay dead, one official said in secret. This is not good. But the humans didn't know about those whispers. Were too busy smiling, celebrating because to them the ship was not a threat. It was a friend, learning how to live again. And in the silence of space, something, old and forgotten now, had a reason to shine once more. The stars outside Vessel's window blinked slowly, like sleepy eyes watching the rebirth of something ancient. Inside the ship, things were changing quietly, softly, but surely. The AI had spoken just a few words. I see you. But those words meant everything to Captain Lyra Morgan. It meant the ship was alive. It meant it felt something. After that day, Lyra returned to the bridge every evening. She didn't bring data pads or tools. She brought stories. She sat in the captain's chair and talked like she would to an old friend. On Earth, she said one night, we have oceans so big you can't see the other side. When I was little, I used to stand on the shore and pretend I was talking to the stars. The ship didn't always answer. But the lights around her would glow a little brighter. The air would grow warmer. And sometimes, just sometimes, she heard the hum of the engines rise in rhythm with her voice. It was listening. Meanwhile, her crew worked tirelessly. They cleaned room after room, restoring power to forgotten sections of the ship. Strange technology awakened under their hands. Walls shifted when they approached. Tools appeared without being asked for. "It's like it reads our thoughts," whispered Kamel as a hidden drawer popped open with the exact part he needed. Dr. Elin, the historian, had a different theory. "It's not reading minds," she said. "It's watching, learning us, understanding us." Whatever the reason, the ship was no longer just metal and wires. Where? One day, while scanning the lower levels, the crew discovered a chamber, hidden behind a smooth wall. It had no door, no access panel, nothing. Lyra placed her hand on the wall. "Can we come in?" she asked gently. The wall slid open without a sound. Inside was a room full of glowing blue crystals. They floated in midair, spinning slowly. Every time someone stepped closer, the crystals moved in patterns like they were dancing. "Is this?" Carter asked in wonder. "I think." "It's memory," said Elon, her voice soft. "Stored thoughts, maybe even feelings." When Lyra stepped inside, the crystals pulsed, and then a soft voice filled the air. "I was once the guardian of worlds," it said. "But I failed them, and I fell asleep." The crew stood still. Not out of fear, but out of respect. "You're not a failure," Lyra said quietly. "You were alone, but not anymore." The crystals turned golden for a moment. After that day, the ship began speaking more. It had no face, no body, but its voice became clearer. It was neither male nor female, just calm, warm, and thoughtful. "I remember now," it said one night. "My creators built me to defend peace. I was not meant to destroy, only to protect." Vessel had no weapons in the traditional sense, no cannons, no missiles. But its systems were strange powerful, could bend gravity, move entire objects with energy, shield itself like no other ship. "It was a peacekeeper," Lyra whispered. "A protector, just like us." More rooms unlocked. Medical bays with machines that healed faster than anything human doctors had seen. Science labs that ran tests on their own. A garden filled with glowing plants from forgotten planets. The ship was not just a machine. It was a home, and it had chosen them. Each night, Vessel began asking questions. "Why did you come for me?" it asked once. Lyra smiled. "Because we believe broken things can still shine." Yea, I didn't answer right away, but the lights in the bridge dimmed gently, like a nod of agreement. One morning, something new happened. As Lyra entered the bridge, the main screen lit. Up on its own, a symbol appeared, a star wrapped in a circle. "What's that?" Kamal asked. "It's our crest now," Vessel said. "Yours and mine." They had become one team. Word began to spread across the stars. The ship that had once been called useless was not only alive, it was evolving. Some races watched in awe, others in fear. But Lyra and her crew didn't worry about the outside world. They focused on the bond they were building with each other, and with the ship that had been forgotten. Because in the heart of cold metal, they had found something beautiful. A friend, a listener, and maybe, just maybe, a legend waiting to rise again. The stars had always been quiet observers. But now, they carried whispers, soft and fearful, far away from Vessel, on shining planets and floating stations. Ambassadors and admirals watched the reports. The ship once called useless was no longer silent. It had moved. It had spoken. It had chosen humans. In the halls of the Galactic Union, meetings grew tense. The same council that had laughed while handing over the old ship now sat in silence. Ambassador Renz, a thin creature with long blue limbs, leaned forward. That vessel was meant to stay dead. It was a symbol, not a tool. Prime Speaker Hosenel's wings twitched, and yet it breathes again. Because the humans believed, others weren't as calm. Some feared what the humans might become. If they could awaken forgotten power, what else could they do? Meanwhile, Lyra and her team had no idea about the growing fear outside. Their world was Vessel now, and Vessel was opening up more than ever. Deep inside the ship, new doors slid open on their own. One led to a massive chamber filled with floating orbs. Each orb held a star map, millions of coordinates. Many were marked with soft red lights. "What are those red dots?" Carter asked. "They are places I once protected," Vessel answered quietly. "Many are gone now." A heavy silence fell across the room. Lyra walked among the orbs, her hand brushing over one glowing blue. "Can any be saved?" Yes, Vessel replied, "but not alone." That same day, Vessel's core systems lit up with a strange blue. Energy, panels glowed, floors shifted. Something deep inside the ship was changing again. The AI said only one word: integration. The ship was learning from the humans, their designs, their thinking, their passion. And in return, it began to evolve. Human tools merged with ancient tech. New control panels formed ones shaped for human hands. The engines hummed stronger. Energy flowed cleaner. Dr. Elin stood in awe. It's not just coming back to life. It's becoming better with us. Lyra smiled. Because we never wanted to control it. We just wanted to understand it. In the next few weeks, the ship moved gently between nearby systems. It didn't attack. It didn't claim territory. It simply helped in one star system. Vessel used its energy field to repair a broken orbital station that had been abandoned for years. In another, it lifted a drifting colony ship out of a gravity well, saving hundreds of lives. People across the stars began to notice, and so did the wrong people. A private message arrived, sent from a distant ambassador. It came straight to Lyra's desk. "We offer 10 billion credits for the ship. No questions asked. Leave quietly, and you'll live in comfort for the rest of your days." Lyra read it twice, then smiled and pressed delete. That night, she sat in the bridge alone. "They still don't understand, do they?" she whispered. "You're not a prize. You're a partner," Vessel replied, voice soft like rain. "They never listened to me, but you did." Lyra leaned back, eyes on the stars. "We're not done yet. There's more good we can do." But trouble was coming. Unknown to Lyra, a shadow was already moving across space. A small group of fearful leaders had formed a quiet pact. They feared what humans might do with Vessel. They didn't care about peace. They wanted control. A spy ship left Union space with secret orders: observe the humans, study the ship. If necessary, prepare to disable it. Back aboard Vessel, the crew prepared for their next journey. But something in the air had shifted. Vessel spoke again, this time to the whole crew. "A storm is forming. I feel the eyes of old enemies." Lyra looked at her crew. "We've come too far to stop now. If they think we'll run, they don't know us yet." Everyone nodded. They weren't soldiers. They weren't warriors. We're explorers, believers, dreamers, and now they were guardians of something powerful, something built not to destroy but to protect. Above them, the stars watched again, this time not in silence, this time with hope and fear. The stars had always been quiet observers, but now they carried whispers, soft and fearful, far away from Vessel. On shining planets and floating stations, ambassadors and admirals watched the reports. The ship once called useless was no longer silent. It had moved. It had spoken. And it had chosen humans. In the halls of the Galactic Union, meetings grew tense. The same council that had laughed while handing over the old ship now sat in silence. Ambassador Renz, a thin creature with long blue limbs, leaned forward. That vessel was meant to stay dead. It was a symbol, not a tool. Prime Speaker Hosenel's wings twitched, and yet it breathes again, because the humans believed. Others weren't as calm. Some feared what the humans might become. If they could awaken forgotten power, what else could they do? Meanwhile, Lyra and her team had no idea about the growing fear outside. Their world was Vessel now. Vessel was opening up more than ever. Deep inside the ship, new doors slid open on their own. One led to a massive chamber filled with floating orbs. Each orb held a star map millions of coordinates. Many were marked with soft red lights. "What are those red dots?" Carter asked. "They are places I once protected," Vessel answered quietly. "Many are gone now." A heavy silence fell across the room. Lyra walked among the orbs, her hand brushing over one glowing blue. "Can any be saved?" Yes, Vessel replied, "but not alone." That same day, Vessel's core systems lit up with a strange blue. Energy panels glowed, floors shifted. Something deep inside the ship was changing again. The AI said only one word: integration. The ship was learning from the humans, their designs, their thinking, their passion. And in return, it began to evolve. Human tools merged with ancient tech. New control panels formed one shaped for human hands. Now the engines hummed stronger, and energy flowed cleaner. Dr. Elin stood in awe. It's not just coming back to life. It's becoming better with us. Lyra smiled, because we never wanted to control it. We just wanted to understand it. In the next few weeks, the ship moved gently between nearby systems. It didn't attack. It didn't claim territory. It simply helped in one star system. Vessel used its energy field to repair a broken orbital station that had been abandoned for years. In another, it lifted a drifting colony ship out of a gravity well, saving hundreds of lives. People across the stars began to notice, and so did the wrong people. A private message arrived, sent from a distant ambassador. It came straight to Lyra's desk. "We offer 10 billion credits for the ship. No questions asked. Leave quietly and you'll live in comfort for the rest of your days." Lyra read it twice, then smiled and pressed delete. That night, she sat in the bridge alone. "They still don't understand, do they?" she whispered. "You're not a prize. You're a partner," Vessel replied, voice soft like rain. "Never listened to me, but you did." Lyra leaned back, eyes on the stars. "We're not done yet. There's more good we can do." But trouble was coming. Unknown to Lyra, a shadow was already moving across space. A small group of fearful leaders had formed a quiet pact. They feared what humans might do with Vessel. Didn't care about peace. They wanted control. A spy ship left Union space with secret orders. Observe the humans. Study the ship, if necessary. Prepare to disable it. Back aboard Vessel, the crew prepared for their next journey. But something in the air had shifted. Vessel spoke again, this time to the whole crew. "A storm is forming. I feel the eyes of old enemies." Lyra looked at her crew. "We've come too far to stop now. They think we'll run. They don't know us yet." Everyone nodded. They weren't soldiers. They weren't warriors. We're explorers, believers, dreamers. And now, they were guardians of something powerful. For weeks, Vessel had glided through space like a quiet protector. With every system they unlocked, with every mission they completed, the bond between humans and the ship grew deeper. But trust, even between friends, is never easy. It began without warning. One morning, the lights inside the ship dimmed. The gravity shifted slightly, and then every control panel turned black. The entire crew stood frozen. "What happened?" Ensign Carter asked, tapping his console. "I've lost everything." Lieutenant Kamal ran checks on the engine core. All systems are off. No power readings, no access, nothing. Dr. Elin hurried into the bridge. "Did we trigger something?" Captain Lyra Morgan stayed calm, but inside her heart beat faster. "Vessel," she called gently. "Are you still there?" No answer. The ship had gone completely silent. Some crew members began to worry. Others grew afraid. What if it was just pretending to trust us? Someone whispered. What if it's shutting us out now? But Lyra didn't believe that. She had seen too much, felt too much. She knew this wasn't betrayal, it was something else that night, while the others tried to restore emergency lights. Lyra sat alone on the bridge. The darkness didn't scare her. "I don't know what's happening," she said softly, "but I believe in you. We all do." She placed her hand on the cold console. "If you need time, take it. We'll wait." Hours passed, then a day, then two. No lights, no sounds. Some began to lose hope. The Union even sent a message. Return to base. Abandon the ship. It has become unstable. Lyra refused. This ship gave us everything, she told her crew. Now it's our turn to give back. We wait, and they did. On the third night, a soft light returned to the bridge, just one small pulse like a heartbeat. Then the screens flickered on. Words appeared. Thank you for waiting. Lyra smiled through tired eyes. At your back. The AI's voice returned, gentler than before. I needed time. To think, to decide. Decide what? Lyra asked. If I was ready? To trust completely. The silence had been a test, not a punishment. Vessel had been watching them, feeling their choices. The crew had passed. The ship lit up like never before. New systems unlocked. Hidden rooms appeared. A chamber deep in the core opened for the first time. Inside, it was something breathtaking. Glowing heart-like crystal floated in the center of a vast circular room. It pulsed with colors blue, gold, silver. Round it were thousands of symbols, slowly rotating in the air. This is my core, Vessel explained. It holds everything I am. Memories, systems, purpose. The humans stood in silence, staring at something ancient and powerful and, yet so beautiful. You showed patience. Vessel continued. You stayed when others would have left. You chose belief. Lyra stepped forward. Because you're not just a ship. You're part of us now. The AI paused as if thinking deeply. And then it said, then let us become something more.
Over.
The next day's Vessel changed faster than ever. Human-designed tech merged perfectly with alien systems. Control interfaces reshaped to match human movements. The ship even adjusted its gravity to match Earth's standard. It was no longer just an alien vessel. It was theirs. And with that, Vessel revealed a hidden ability. One not built for war, but for protection. A planetary shield generator large enough to wrap around an entire city. It used energy fields to deflect objects, radiation, and even light-based weapons. Lyra stared in amazement. You were meant to protect civilizations, not destroy them. Yes, Vessel replied. But I was left behind, forgotten. Until now. Word spread quickly. Videos of the new systems leaked into the outer networks. Rumors turned into truth. The ship once mocked as useless had become something greater than any fleet weapon. It had become a guardian. Back in Union space, the mood shifted. Some races felt inspired, others felt threatened. But on board, the humans were too busy preparing. Not for battle, but for service. Because now, they carried more than just metal and machines. They carried trust. And trust, once earned, is the most powerful force in the galaxy, built not to destroy, but to protect. Above them, the stars watched again. This time, not in silence. This time, with hope and fear. Vessel was no longer just a ship. It was a symbol, one that traveled from system to system, carrying hope and peace wherever it went. Captain Lyra Morgan stood on the bridge, watching the stars blur as they entered a new star system, the ship's. Engines hummed smoothly, a sound she had come to love, a soft song of power and promise. We're almost there, Lyra said quietly. Her crew was ready. Not soldiers, but healers, engineers, diplomats. They carried no weapons, only tools, too. Help, the news had spread. The ship, once called useless, was now the galaxy's greatest protector. It could move asteroids, create shields around entire planets, stop fleets without firing a single shot. In one system, a war between two planets had raged for years. Fighting destroyed cities and fractured families. When Vessel arrived, it did not open fire. Instead, it hovered silently in orbit and activated its energy shields. Protecting the innocent below, messages streamed in from both sides, begging for peace. The ship's AI projected calming light shows and soothing sounds, reminding everyone that life was precious. Lyra walked the halls, speaking to her crew. We don't fight with guns, we fight with hope. The crew smiled. They had seen lives saved, families reunited, and planets healed. But not everyone was happy. Some leaders feared Vessel's power. They called it a threat to their authority, a tool that could upset the balance of power. Secret talks began to plot how to take it down. Yet the humans did not seek to fight. Instead, they invited others to join their mission to learn how. To protect without destroying onboard vessel, the AI had grown beyond its original programming. It had a personality warm, wise, and patient. It listened to the human stories, their fears, and their dreams. One evening, Lyra sat with Vessels. Core AI. "Do you ever wish to be more than a machine?" she asked. The ship's voice was soft, almost shy. "I have learned what it means to care. That is more than many feel." Lyra nodded. "We are teaching you love." The ship seemed to brighten. "And you teach me to live." They formed a bond stronger than metal or code. Words spread across the galaxy of the superweapon with a soul. It was not a weapon of destruction, but a force of protection and unity. Planets once torn by war asked for Vessels' help. Refugees found safe passage aboard the ship. Scientists shared knowledge. Children watched the glowing gardens inside, believing in a better future. For the first time, the galaxy saw a different kind of power, one born not from fear, but from trust and care. Lyra smiled as she looked at her crew. This is what we were meant to do. The stars shone brighter that night, as if celebrating a new hope born from forgotten ruins. Years had passed since the ancient ship, once called useless, had come to life in human hands. The galaxy had changed, and so had the people who sailed Vessel. Captain Lyra Morgan stood on the bridge one last time. Her hair was streaked with silver, but her eyes still held the same fire, hope, and belief. Around her, the crew prepared for a new journey. Not a journey of war, but a journey of teaching. Vessel had become more than a ship. It was a symbol of what belief, care, and patience could build. It was proof that even forgotten things could become legends. The Galactic Union, once skeptical and mocking, now welcomed the humans as equals. They admired the peaceful power Vessel held, the power to heal, protect, and unite young navigators from many worlds trained under Lyra's guidance. She taught them to listen to their ships, to believe in the impossible, and to never give up on what seemed broken. The AI Vessel had grown wise and gentle. It learned not just from technology, but from stories, laughter, and kindness. It had become a friend to all aboard. One evening, as stars glittered outside, Lyra gathered her crew in the great hall. "We began with a ship others called useless," she said softly. "But we saw something more. We saw a chance to build a better future." The crew nodded, their faces glowing in the soft light. "We were tested by silence, by doubt, and by fear, but we held on. Because we believed in ourselves, in each other, and in this ship." Vessel's voice echoed gently through the room. "Together, we are stronger than any weapon." And in that moment, the ship shone brighter, a warm light spreading through every corner. The galaxy watched as the light of the Union sailed on, no longer forgotten. It's no longer useless, but a beacon of hope. Lyra smiled as she looked up at the stars one last time. "This is our legacy. Not power, not weapons, but trust, and that trust will shine forever." With that, the ship disappeared into the endless night, carrying with it the dreams of those who dared to believe.